It's Cyclone Sunday with Ben Bruns, breaking everything down from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Iowa Everywhere.
What is going on? Aiden Wyatt here with Ben Bruns, Cyclone Sunday here in the Channel Seed Studios on the Iowa Everywhere Network. Number 11, Iowa State falls to Texas Tech 23-22. Bruns, how are we feeling this morning?
Oof, rough. You know, I think Axl Rose said it best. It's hard to hold a candle in the cold November rain.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, no, it just, I was a mess. And actually, I owe an apology. Kate and Clayton, I'm sorry. I was not a fun person to be around last night. And you, neither were you two either. We're all mad, but you know, I'm sorry. So, no, just frustrating day, right? One of those days where Iowa State should have been better, should have won that game in a lot of different ways. And, you know, you think about, from just kind of not performing the same way we had in the run game to, you know, not converting a 2-point conversion when you got a good look and, you know, do a little rollout and everything's covered up. And I think coaches, players, everybody are going to say the same thing, which is what might have been. And, but I got to tell you, what a great environment and an incredible atmosphere for football. A great night, approaching Fat Man weather, you know, Fat Man weather adjacent. But, you know, just too many mistakes.
Yeah. Well, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Speaking of mistakes, the formula for Iowa State this year has been low penalties, keep taking care of the football, and minimize all mistakes across the board. 8 penalties for 59 yards yesterday, well above season averages in both of those. And I mean, I don't want to say this was Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knowles' fault, because it obviously wasn't, but they had 2 key drops that I think could have easily changed the game. What did you see from the offense yesterday?
Yeah, you know, I saw Texas Tech bring. I think people are using the formula that UCF put out there on Iowa State. That's exactly how we saw the game plan. It was a lot more man under. It was a lot more pressure than Iowa State had seen earlier in the season from most of its foes. And what was really disappointing to me was we were not able to effectively block the linebackers consistently. And I thought those guys from Texas Tech played great, both, you know, against Iowa State's O-line, but also against our tight ends. It hurts to not have Bramer in the game. He didn't go again this week, and that's a major weapon that you would use to break down a lot of that type of pressure. But you're right, drops. I mean, think about, you mentioned 59 yards of penalties, but, you know, taking away what was lost from those conversions on the RPO game, right? There was another 60 yards probably in that. Maybe not quite, maybe 50, but 2 RPOs that called back because of you know, Jared Hufford downfield. And, you know, that's tough. I tweeted about it during the game. It's like, you know, you're trying to block for the run and you don't know whether or not he's going to throw it. You know, it's a big part of the football game these days, that kind of play. And, you know, when you get big plays called back because of things like that, it's tough.
Yeah. Can you take me through a little bit what an offensive lineman would be coached in an RPO? I mean, obviously, you know, if you're an unmarked center, you're going to want to go down to a linebacker. How do you kind of deal with that?
For sure. Well, and I think one of the things, you know, just start with basic zone fundamentals. And basic zone fundamentals are to say you don't commit to the linebacker until he commits to line of scrimmage. And I think one of the big challenges in those plays, we're running zone. And if you're in a hurry to get to the linebacker, you're going to expose yourself 2 different ways. One, you're not going to get the movement on the down guy that you need. And Texas Tech was leaving him really uncovered, right? Like they weren't, a lot of times you'll have somebody just inside the guard that you would double with to that a middle linebacker. But he was even up or maybe even a little bit outside to the play side most of the time. So that combination, it's difficult to get into that block and be helpful without displacing yourself so much that you give a run through lane for that linebacker. And so, his choice was, okay, I'm going to take my steps to the play side to where that double team should be, but the double team's not there. It went away. Okay, then I'm going to climb. And, that the timing of it is just too quick, right? And I was fortunate. One, we didn't run a lot of RPO back then, but two, I wouldn't have climbed as fast as he does because he's a better athlete, right? So, it's just, I think the first one was super close. I think he's within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage when the first one went out. I thought the second one was bad. It was like 4 yards downfield, and so you can't risk it, especially after they've called it once. And the lesson is stay on the down guy longer, right? If the run play happens, the back's going to have to try and make a play based off of where you are in space.
Right. Yeah. Sticking with the offense here, I want to talk about, the biggest things in a game like that, it's the quarterback, it's the offensive coordinator, and it's the offensive line that are going to catch the blame for all of this. I don't think you can really point a finger in one direction or another. I think it was just an off day kind of for everyone. What were your takeaways?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I think, again, you're playing against other guys, right? And those other guys, I think Texas Tech did a really good job of bringing the right kinds of pressure at the right places. You think about that pass that Rocco had forced early in the first half. They blitzed off of the edge that he was trying to roll to, and we don't roll him out that much, but it's a bootleg to the short side of the field, and they blitz right in that spot. And so immediately there's a defender in his face who's an athlete, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're bringing an outside linebacker off of that. I think sometimes your opponent just does a better job than you. The problem with this is we were the ones coming off the bye week, right? We were the ones that should have, I think everybody's emotion is higher because you would have thought we would have been the ones with a little more edge, a little more prep, a little bit more fresh. And it looked like Texas Tech was.
Yeah. Not to date you here, but times might be a little different from when you were in school. What does a bye week look like? The week after a bye week.
It's a normal game week. So you come back into it and you're into your normal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday and Friday are pretty light usually. And what I would have hoped is to see some more guys being able to come back from injury. It was really good to see Purchase out on the field again, right? He played more than he has at any point in the season so far. Darren Porter again playing some more, which is a big deal. Great interception. What a play. That was crazy good. But we still don't have the linebackers back, which I think was a big part of this. And Bramer being banged up. It feels like the bye week was good for Iowa State, but it wasn't enough.
Agreed. Let's flip it to the defense. This is Cyclone Sunday. Ben Bruns, Aiden Wyatt here in the Channel Seed Studios on Iowa Everywhere. I thought the defense played pretty well, all things considered, yesterday. Texas Tech, I think Zach Kitley called a great game for the Red Raiders. Texas Tech offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He kind of found the niche in finding ways to attack Iowa State. Like, their last touchdown was a beautiful play call.
It was fantastic. Iowa State had rolled over and overloaded to the wide receiver side. There was no alley player on the backside. And, it's pretty unusual for us, right? But I think Texas Tech's ability to protect, number one, we were not able to get pressure with three guys. And, even when we did bring pressure, Morton made some great plays. We brought a safety blitz in the first quarter, and, he takes it. He's about to get hit right in the chest, throws it up in the hole in the zone, and they get a big third down conversion. So that was on the drive that they scored the field goal. So you're right. Great play call. Totally taking advantage of what Iowa State was trying to take away. And Iowa State's trying to scheme things to take things away, right? And, when that happens, stuff's going to be open. And so hats off to Texas Tech for taking advantage of Iowa State in a position right now. And, when you got young linebackers, and those guys played great again, right? But they're limited in their range and their ability to, shut stuff down, as well as a Caleb Bacon, et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. And so you just have to, as a defensive coordinator, you've got to make more adjustments to try and create leverage in places where you think the ball's going. I thought the ball was going to go to the left side of the offensive formation, and they ran it back to the right, perfectly.
Yeah, right. There was a spot in the game that I want to talk about, and just given why I thought the defense played so well. After Iowa State gave up that field goal in the first quarter, Texas Tech's next 6 drives, they had a total of 21 yards. So we kind of saw, again, give up a score early, settle in, and then put it in the
100%. Yeah, everybody around us was like, we're getting it figured out. Heacock's got it figured out. And I think that's true. I think, in that stretch or near that stretch was, or at the end of that stretch was the hands to the face on Onyedem. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge play, right? I mean, you've got a pick, you're going to be in scoring position. You got a chance to go up in the game and start to put it out of reach, and you keep a drive alive for Tech and they're able to extend. I thought that was the play of the game, that one little mistake. And, nobody, that's not to say, we lost the game because of that. I mean, there's a dozen plays that you go back and say, hey, we should have, would have, could have, but, that was a huge turning point in the overall picture of the game, and one that I'm sure he wished he had back.
Right. Let's talk about, unless you have anything left on the defense, I think we can go ahead and talk about big picture Iowa State things. The season is not close to being over.
Right.
7-1, 4-1 in conference play. Big 12 championship is very much alive. There's a lot of tiebreakers. I don't know the math behind it. I'm not sure that many people do. Colorado's still in the mix. BYU's still in the mix. K-State's still in the mix, obviously, despite a loss yesterday. What's your season outlook for the Cyclones?
Well, I think number one, you need to root for Texas Tech next weekend, right? So they play Colorado in a super important game for Iowa State. And then, you've got to win. And I think if Iowa State can win out and somewhere along the way somebody clips Colorado, I think you got it. But, there's zero margin for error at this point, right? But everything you still want is still out there. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of upside, 7-1. And how much do you hate losing, right? How much do you hate losing? How much will it help you reflect on, okay, here's all the little things that were, was this a situational thing, or is there something that we need to change? Mm-hmm. And, that's for them to figure out. I can't, I've been rewatching the game and I see themes of, guys just getting beat by other guys at places, right? And hats off to Texas Tech. They played an inspired football game. They executed perfectly. They behaved like a high-level football team does, particularly coming back from, a couple of nasty losses. So, I think you got to go take care of business against Kansas, and that'll be a real test, right? It's going to be kind of an awkward environment, kind of fun to play in Arrowhead, but an uninspiring crowd probably, other than the fact that I'm sure there'll be a lot of Cyclone fans there. So, it's going to feel like a neutral field game, in which case, that could be fun. But Iowa State's better than Kansas. They've got to go play better.
Yeah. And I think, it's a good chance. There's going to be a lot of talking heads this week saying the Cyclones were frauds. Well,
yep.
Here's another chance to prove yourself. Kansas, I get their record is not good. They're not a bad football team, though. They've reminiscent of the 2022 Iowa State Cyclones. A lot of close games. They blow a lead late in the fourth quarter. Yep. What do you expect next week?
Yeah, highly ranked or highly thought of coming into the season, right? They've been a disappointment to themselves to this point. I think that's a dangerous football team. I think KU has a good defensive front, and that's where we've seen Iowa State when Iowa State really has been able to put our will on somebody. It's been because we've been able to run block, and we weren't able to consistently run block in this last game. Can we improve enough in this next week to play what might be a more talented defensive front and do that? That's yet to be seen, and these guys yet have that opportunity yet to come.
Yeah. Last thing here, I've kind of thought about this since last night. This was in 2014, 2015, Iowa State men's basketball. I don't know if you remember this season. A lot of close games. They caught a couple breaks, and they win all these games by just a hair. Mm-hmm. And then they finally lose to UAB. Mm-hmm. And that ends the whole season. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? This Iowa State team has a lot of close games, and they get their UAB moment against Texas Tech in the first weekend of November. Talk me through what it means to have a loss like this after all your close games, and you get the chance to look yourself in the mirror and fix what's right with 4 games left in the regular season before a chance to, make a Big 12 title game, go to the college football playoff.
Number one, you can't walk into that building today thinking that all the work that you've done to this point, was flawed. You can't walk into that building thinking that, maybe they were right. You got to walk into that building thinking we're going to prove them wrong again, right? And when I say I like to win, I really do. It's great, but I hate to lose. And there's a difference between those two things. And I think Matt Campbell falls squarely in that way of thinking too, right? It's like you learn the most when you lose. You grow the most when you lose. You have to deal with yourself, right? You have to answer the call. And he was pretty reflective on his post-game comments, and I'm going to guess that the fire in the belly is as hot as it's ever been, knowing what is still achievable this season. So, this team's going to be okay. They've got excellent leadership. They believe in themselves. And, but when the ratings come out and you're 20th or something like that, like, you knew this was coming. You knew if we had this moment, right, that was what was going to get served up to you. And now you got to build it back. But it is far better to experience that a few weeks away from the end of the season. If you can run the table and finish up and win the the worst thing is when it happens at the end, right? And now all of a sudden, as bowl games and the playoff and all that picture comes together, you're the one that just got beat. Mm-hmm. If we can use this as a turning point, in not necessarily a turning point, if we can use this as a catalyst to continue forward, and who knows what happens with this season? But I can tell you, I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks and losing my voice again, and all that stuff. Hopefully, not have as big a meal afterward. But such is life.
Right. Such is life. I feel like that comes up every couple weeks with you. Such is life.
Such is life. Yep.
All right. That's all I got for you, Brunsy. Thank you for your time as always. For Ben Bruns, Aiden Wyatt, here in the Channel Seed Studios, this has been Cyclone Sunday on the Iowa Everywhere Network.